Okay, so in the previous section, we saw how to create a Cloud Foundry application. And this is so once you go to the Cloud Foundry application, you will see this link here, API management section here. So this is what we will use in order to secure and manage our APIs. So once you go to that link, you will see that what is needed is an API definition file. So we need to import the API definition file in either YAML or JSON format, and then we can use this page to secure our APIs and manage our APIs. So let's go to okay. So for this, for now, what we'll do is we'll not create the application from scratch. We'll use an existing application. So here is the existing application which I'm going to use. So I'm going to import this source into my application, and then I'm going to publish that into Bluemix. So what I've done is I've cloned this project. So you can copy this and then do git clone, and I've cloned this project. And the clone project is here. And now this is my. So this is the application that we created earlier. So this is. So if you go to this application and look at the toolchain, if you look at the toolchain, you will see that the Git repository there. And in the meantime, I'll just come here. So if you look at the Git repository, this is the remote that we have. This is the repository URL, and then this is the master branch. And if you look at this, so this is our Git repository that we're going to use. So what I've done, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy. So currently this folder is empty. So what I'm going to do is copy this the code from the sample project. Okay, so I've copied all the source code from the sample project to my project, and now we're going to import that into Eclipse. So I'll go to Eclipse, and since this is a Maven project, I'll import that as a Maven project. So I will import that. Okay, so these are this is the main project, the top level project. It has these sub projects, and this is the application. This is the actual API application, and this is the project which has the server configuration. So now, since we need to generate the API documentation in the Swagger format, so we need Liberty has some features which we can use for that. So we have a feature called. So if you look at the server definition here, you will see that it uses these features. It uses the API discovery. Yeah, it uses these features, the API discovery and the JAX-RS feature. So JAX-RS is something that allows you to build your API application using based on the specification, and API discovery is the feature that will help us to create an endpoint where you can explore the APIs and also get the API documentation. So currently these features you don't see them installed, but once we connect it to an installed Liberty server, you'll be able to see those as enabled. Okay, so once we have the application here, the next thing that we need to do is we need to create a runtime definition and a server definition. So first thing we'll do is create new runtime. And here you can either choose to install from an archive or repository, or you can choose an existing path. So I will choose an existing path here. I already have Liberty installation. And you can get the steps for this Liberty installation in this GitHub URL here. So this is the sample application that I'm referring to, and this has all the steps to install Liberty as well. Okay, so I already have Liberty installed. So I'm going to refer to that installation, and what I'll do is, since we don't want to use the default server configuration, we want some additional features in our server, so we're going to use this server configuration, which is part of our project here. Okay, and finish. So now we have the runtime configuration. We need to create a server instance. So create a new server, and here instead of default server we choose our sample definition and click on finish. So once you do that, you go and close this, and now go to server, open this. Now if you click on server configuration, you should see these features. These features have already been installed in the Liberty server, so you can see all those enabled now. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is let's look at the application. So the application has two parts. One is JAX-RS based API, and the second is a simple servlet. So for the servlet portion, we have the API documentation, which has already been created. So if you want to look at the API documentation, you can go to source. So this is already documented. The API documentation for the servlet portion is already documented here. And for the JAX-RS API, we will auto-generate the API. We will auto-generate the API documentation. So this is the JAX-RS application, and for that we will auto-generate the APIs using the Swagger definition annotations. So we have definitions here, and then similarly, if you look at the model that it is using, we have some definitions here. So this helps us in generating the Swagger documentation automatically. So now let's go and build our application. So for that, we'll go to Eclipse and say mvn package. So what this does is it creates a WAR file and then copies the WAR file to the server / our sample server / apps folder. So if you come here to the Eclipse environment, you'll see that this is our server configuration, and it copies the WAR file to here. So I'll just refresh it. So it copies the WAR file under this folder, the apps folder. So once you start the server, this is what gets deployed. So now I can start the server here. So now that this server configuration has the API discovery and the JAX-RS features, you will see, because of the API discovery feature, you will see some endpoints which are available to you by default, through which you can view all the API documentation, you can explore the APIs and all that. So if I go to the console, you can see. So this is our API documentation, and it has two parts to it. One is the contacts API, and the second is the task API. So this has combined the auto-generated API for the tasks API based on the JAX-RS specification, and also the predefined contacts API. Okay, so we have seen the API documentation. We can also go and test the API locally. So you can click on API Explorer, and here, from here you can go and test the APIs locally. So let me try get task. I've already created some uh, tasks, so I can see all those tasks in my response. Okay, so once this is done, now we want to push these changes into the source control so that they get automatically deployed in Bluemix, and then we'll go and manage the API from Bluemix. So in order to push changes to the source control, we'll go back to our terminal. So before we push our application, what we need is we need a manifest.yml file. This is a Cloud Foundry requirement, so where you can define all the requirements for your application when it is deployed into Bluemix. So let's look at the contents of the manifest.yml file. So we have the domain name and the host name. The host name has to be unique. The name has to be unique within that space, and the host name has to be unique under this domain. So I have created this, and this is the path that we are going to use. So we are going to give the path of the server definition in order to deploy the application. So that way, it will deploy not just the WAR file, which is under the apps folder, but it will also deploy the server definition, which is in the server.xml file. So we have the manifest.yml files. So I'll add manifest.yml. Okay, so this should deliver our manifest.yml file in the source control. And once this is done, it will automatically start creating the build. So if I go to overview and then click on view tool chains, so I will click on delivery pipeline, and here you can see that the two stages are there, and the build stage is already in progress because of the change that we did just now. And the build has passed, and now let's go to let's check the logs of the deployment stage. Okay, so the deployment is in progress. And you can see that it's going to use this manifest.yml file that we've delivered. Okay, once this is done, our application will be deployed. And since we have also delivered this, the server.xml, we will have those features deployed in our Liberty container. Okay, so let's wait for this to get deployed. Okay, so the application is now deployed. The build is successful. The deployment is successful. Now let's go back to. So what you can do is you can click on pipeline. We can go to our application and we'll click on this. Just click on this. So we don't have anything deployed at the root, so we can go and check our API documentation here also. So we can, yeah, this is the application route, and then we have /API/docs. So here you can see the application here, and if you and you can also go and look at the API Explorer here again. So again, we can go and test our application. So let me create an API. Let me create a task here. And so as you can see, your API is ready, but we do not have any uh, security in place at the moment. Anyone can invoke this API and use them. So let's go and now secure these APIs through the API management option that we have in Bluemix. So we'll go to the overview page and then click on the API management section here. And now we'll go and import the API definition. Okay, so before we import the API definition, let's go and also save the API definition. So let me save this. And I'll go and import that from here. So that is the default name. We will change that to contacts and tasks API. You can choose how you want to secure your APIs. We'll choose API key and secret. You can limit the APIs, limit the number of calls that client can make to the APIs, and you can also enable codes. Let's go and save it. Once we have imported the API definition, we can go to the API Explorer and view all the APIs. The next thing that we want to do is expose and manage these APIs. So before we do that, let's go and first just test the APIs from the browser. So as you can see, currently these APIs are not secured, and I could test this API directly from the browser, do a get API call directly from the browser. Now let me go and expose this managed API. And now if you, so you can go and refresh this page. And now if I try to go and access the same API again, I'm getting an error which says client ID is required in the header. So now in order to, once we have, so our APIs are now secured, and in order to access those APIs we need to use the client ID. So for generating the client ID and secret, we can go to this page. So you can create an API key and secret here. So this is my client ID. And here's my secret. I'll go and create this. So now I have the client ID and secret, and now I can go and test this API. So I'll use a tool called Postman. So I need to enter the URL here.
In the headers, I'll set my client ID and secret. Okay, the header is set. We have the URL. We need this header. That's it. Okay, as you can see, we are getting the result now with the required headers in place.